"Get out of here, I didn't invite you," my daughter-in-law screamed when I tried to sit at the table I myself had prepared since 5 in the morning for her birthday. But this was my house. I stood up slowly. I walked toward the door and did something that left all the guests frozen. Isabella's words cut the air like broken glass. All the guests froze, forks halfway to their mouths, glasses suspended in the air. The silence that followed was so heavy you could feel it on your skin. My hands were stained with tamale dough. I had started cooking at 5 a.m. I made a spicy red stew, just like Michael has liked it since he was a boy. Tamales with cheese and peppers, Mexican-style rice, refried beans with sausage. I cut flowers from my garden, those bougainvillea I planted 20 years ago with my husband, and I put them in vases all over the living room. I cleaned every corner. I shined the floors. I ironed the embroidered tablecloths my mother left me when she died. All for Isabella's birthday. My daughter-in-law. My only son's wife. And when I tried to sit at the head of my own table, in the house I built with my own hands next to my late husband Henry, she looked at me like I was trash on the sidewalk. "That seat is for my mother," she yelled, pointing at me with her finger as if I were a naughty child. "You sit over there, next to the kitchen, in case we need anything served." The eyes of her friends pierced right through me. Some looked down, ashamed. Others smiled with that silent cruelty that only women know. Michael, my son, my blood, was standing next to Isabella, with his mouth open but speechless, without a single word to defend me, to understand how I reached the point of kicking my own family out of my house. I need to take you back 3 years, to the day Michael arrived with that smile I hadn't seen on his face since he was a teenager. "Mom, I met someone," he told me that April afternoon, his eyes shining like carnival lights. I was in the backyard pruning my rose bushes. I took off my gardening gloves and looked at him. My son was 34 years old and had come out of 2 difficult relationships. Seeing him like that, excited, it filled me with hope. "Her name is Isabella. She's incredible. Mom. Smart, educated, ambitious. She works in digital marketing. I met her at a business conference in Chicago." 2 weeks later, Isabella showed up at my door with a bouquet of white lilies and a perfect smile. She wore an elegant wine-colored dress, but not exaggerated. Her brown hair was pulled back in a flawless ponytail, discreet makeup. She smelled like expensive perfume. "Camilla," she said with a sweet voice, "Michael has told me so much about you. It's an honor to meet the woman who raised such a wonderful man." The right words, the right tone, the right attitude. I welcomed her into my living room. I served her spiced coffee with sweet bread I had baked that morning. Isabella asked me about the photos on the wall. She praised my plants. She listened attentively when I told her how Henry and I built this house brick by brick, working double shifts for 5 years. "What an inspiring story," she said, touching my hand. "The women of your generation are made of iron. I aspire to have your strength." She charmed me. I admit it without shame. Isabella won me over, just like she won over Michael. 2 months later, she came to see me alone. She seemed nervous, fidgeting with her hands. "Camilla, I need to ask you for a favor. I'm so embarrassed, but I'm trying to launch my own consulting business and the bank denied my loan. Michael doesn't know because I don't want to worry him. I know it's a lot to ask, but could you lend me $45,000? I'll pay you back in 6 months. With interest if you want." She looked down, her eyes glassy. "I understand if you say no. I have no right to ask you this. But you're the only person I trust." I had those savings put away for emergencies. Money I had saved selling tamales on weekends for years after Henry died. But Isabella seemed so sincere, so vulnerable. "I don't need interest," I told her. "You're practically family." She hugged me, crying. "Thank you. Camilla, you don't know what this means to me. I swear I'll pay you back." I never saw that money again. When my sister Lucy met Isabella at a family dinner, she pulled me aside to the kitchen. "Camilla, that girl has the face of a gold digger," she whispered while we washed the dishes. "Did you see how she looks at the house like she's sizing it up? Lucy, You've always been suspicious, I answered, annoyed. Isabella is a good girl. Michael is happy. All right, my sister sighed, but when things get ugly, remember I warned you. I ignored her. I defended Isabella when Lucy made comments, even when my daughter Valerie, who lived in Dallas, called me, worried. Mom! I looked up Isabella on social media. She has photos in really expensive restaurants, trips to Miami, designer clothes. Where does she get the money if she's just starting her business? Valerie, don't be a gossip, I told her. Social media doesn't show the whole reality. 6 months after that first meeting, Michael announced they were getting married. It was fast. I know, he said. But when you know, and Mom, Isabella is the woman of my life. I organized the wedding. I hired the hall, paid for the banquet for 100 people. I spent $87,000 that I had saved for my old age. Isabella chose everything, the flowers, the music, even the menu. I just signed the checks and smiled. Thank you, Camila, she always said. I don't know what we'd do without you. The day of the wedding, as I watched her walk down the aisle in that white dress that cost $35,000, I felt a strange pinch in my chest, like a warning I didn't know how to hear. Michael looked at her as if she were an angel descended from heaven. And I, fool that I was, thought I was gaining a daughter. I didn't know I was losing a son. The first 3 months after the wedding were normal. Isabella and Michael came for dinner on Sundays. They helped me with heavy groceries. They called to ask how I was. I thought everything would be fine. But the cracks began to appear one Saturday afternoon. They arrived unannounced. I was in old sweatpants, my hair in a messy braid, cleaning the windows. I heard the key in the lock and was surprised. Michael, what are you doing here? I asked. Mom, I told you Isabella needed to use your kitchen today. Don't you remember? He hadn't told me anything, but I saw Isabella's look, that tense smile, and I didn't want to make a scene. Of course, honey. Go ahead. Isabella walked straight into my kitchen as if it were hers. She opened the pantry where I keep my spices and frowned. Camilla, how do you find anything in here? It's all disorganized. She started taking out jars, reorganizing, moving my things. I stood in the doorway, watching her touch what my husband and I had arranged for years. It's fine like that, Isabella, I said softly. I know where everything is. No, it's better alphabetically. Believe me, it's more efficient. Michael was in the living room on his phone, ignoring everything. That was the first time, but not the last. 2 weeks later, they came again. This time, Isabella brought furniture catalogs. Camila, I was thinking, that green sofa in the living room is very outdated. Don't you think it's like 20 years old? 23 years old. I had bought it with Henry when Michael turned 11. I remembered the day perfectly. He was so happy because we finally had a new sofa, not a second-hand one. I like that sofa, I said. Oh, Camila, but it looks old. Look, here are some modern ones, minimalist. Michael and I could buy it for you as a gift. I don't need a gift. My sofa is fine. Isabella exchanged a look with Michael. He shrugged. Mom, maybe Isabella is right. A change would be nice. I felt as if I had been slapped, but I swallowed and smiled. We'll see. The next month. The attack was more direct. Isabella was in my dining room, looking at the china cabinet where I kept my mother's porcelain dinnerware. 24 plates, cups, bowls with hand-painted flowers. My mother had brought them from her hometown when she got married. It was the only material thing I had left of her. You know what, Camila? This dinnerware is taking up so much space. When was the last time you used it? At Christmas. I lied. The truth was I didn't use it because I was afraid it would break. But it was mine. We could sell it. I saw on the internet that this type of antique porcelain is valued well. Maybe you could get $15,000 or $20,000 for it. With that, you could buy new clothes. Right, I've noticed you wear the same clothes a lot. The blood rushed to my face. My clothes are fine, and my dinnerware is not for sale. "It was just a suggestion," Isabella said, raising her hands. "Don't be offended." But I was already offended. I was beginning to understand something I didn't want to accept. Isabella didn't visit me. Isabella inspected. The following months were worse. She started arriving unannounced, sometimes when I was in my pajamas drinking my morning coffee. She would open my refrigerator and comment, "Camila, you have too many expired things in here." She would check my bathroom and say, "These tiles urgently need renovation." One day she arrived with a huge box. "I brought new dishes for your kitchen. The others are already very scratched." They were my dishes, the ones I had used for 30 years. Yes, they had signs of use, but they worked perfectly. "I don't need them, Isabella. I already bought them." They can't be returned. And so, little by little, my house began to feel less like mine. Isabella brought things, moved things, threw things away, always with that sweet smile, always with those words. "It's for your own good. Camila, I just want to help. Believe me, it's better this way." And Michael never said anything, absolutely nothing. One afternoon, after they left, I sat on my green sofa, the one Isabella hated, and I cried. I cried for the first time since Henry's funeral, because I was starting to feel like a visitor in my own home, as if my life, my memories, my things, didn't matter, as if I were in the way. But the worst hadn't arrived yet, because Isabella didn't just want to change my house. She wanted to change me, and I would soon discover how far she was willing to go. The Christmas of that year changed everything. It was December. I had already taken the Christmas decorations out of the closet. The nativity scene that Henry and I bought on vacation 30 years ago, the red and gold ornaments, the lights we put in the window every year, I had everything planned. I would make turkey, ham, fruit punch. Christmas was always sacred in my house. But Isabella had other plans. She arrived on a Tuesday afternoon with Michael. She didn't even knock. She used the key I had given her for emergencies. "Camila, we have exciting news," she said with that cheerful voice that was already starting to make me nervous. "This year we're going to have Christmas dinner here, but I'll take care of everything." "What do you mean? You'll take care of it. I always make Christmas dinner." "I know, but it's a lot of work for you." "You don't have the same energy as before. Better rest and leave it to me." I was 68, not 90. I could still cook perfectly. "Isabella, I appreciate the gesture, but it's already decided." "Mom," Michael interrupted. "Isabella invited her family too." "There will be about 20 people. It's too much for you alone." 20 people, her family in my house, on my Christmas. "No one consulted me," I said, feeling my voice break. "We don't need to consult you. Mom, it's our house too now." Those words hit me like punches. Our house. As if Isabella had rights over the place where I had raised my children, where my husband had died in my arms, where every corner held 40 years of memories. "This is my house. Michael," I said firmly. He sighed, annoyed. "Mom, don't start. Isabella just wants to help." Don't start. As if I were a child throwing a tantrum. Christmas Eve arrived. Isabella transformed my living room into something unrecognizable. She removed my nativity scene and put up a modern silver tree with minimalist ornaments. She replaced my embroidered tablecloths with plain white ones. She hid my traditional ornaments in boxes because they cluttered the space. Her family arrived first, her mother Stella, her father Robert, her 2 brothers with their wives, her nephews, people I didn't know invading my home. They sat in my living room as if they were the owners. Isabella's mother looked me up and down and said, "So you're the mother-in-law. Isabella has told me a lot about you." The tone was not kind. It was evaluative, as if she were inspecting used furniture. I had prepared punch, even though Isabella said it wasn't necessary. I served it in silence while she received compliments for the decorations I hated. "Isabella, what great taste you have," her mother said. "This house urgently needed a renovation." Valerie arrived from Dallas with her husband Daniel and my 2 grandchildren, Sarah and Matt. My daughter hugged me tight and whispered in my ear, "Mom, What happened to Grandpa's nativity scene? Isabella put it away, I said without looking at her. I saw Valerie clench her jaw, but she said nothing. She didn't want to ruin the dinner. Isabella served roast turkey with mashed potatoes. Nothing traditional, nothing I would have made, but everyone clapped and congratulated her. I ate in silence in a corner of the table, like a last-minute guest. After dinner, I offered to help clean up. "No, Camilla, you better go rest. You're too old for these things." That phrase, "You're too old." I felt something break inside me, but I nodded and went to my room. I sat on the bed looking at Henry's photos on the nightstand. I cried silently so no one would hear me. Past midnight, I went out to the bathroom. The house was dark. I heard voices in the kitchen. Isabella and her mother. I froze in the hallway, listening. "And when do you think it will happen?" Stella asked. "I don't know, Mom. But it must be soon. She's 68. At that age, anything can happen." "And are you sure Michael is going to inherit the house? He's the only son. Obviously, she'll leave everything to him. The sister doesn't count. She lives in Dallas." They laughed. Both of them. "When it happens," Isabella continued, "we sell this house immediately. I already saw it's worth about $3.8 million. With that, we'll buy something modern in Lincoln Park or downtown. This neighborhood is already very run down." "And what if the old woman lives many more years?" There was a silence. Then Isabella spoke with a coldness that chilled my blood. "There are ways to speed things up. Nursing homes, for example. Michael is already considering the idea. He says his mom is very lonely here, that it would be better if she were in a place with more people." "Smart. And that way the house is free." "Exactly." I leaned against the wall so I wouldn't fall. My legs were shaking. My heart was beating so hard I thought they could hear it. My daughter-in-law, the woman I lent money to, the one I defended, the one I received as a daughter, was waiting for me to die, planning to lock me up in a nursing home, planning to sell the house I built with my own hands. And Michael knew. My son knew. And not only did he not defend me, he agreed. I returned to my room as best I could. I sat on the bed with a lost gaze until the sun began to rise. That Christmas, I didn't sleep, but I woke up, because sometimes the greatest gift isn't what they give you, it's what they take away, so you can finally see the truth. I spent 3 days without talking to anyone after Christmas. Valerie returned to Dallas. Worried, she called me every night, asking if I was okay. I told her yes, that I was just tired. I couldn't tell her yet what I had heard. I needed to confirm it first. I needed to give Michael the chance to prove me wrong. On December 29th, I called him. My voice was shaking. "Honey, could you come to the house? Just you. I need to talk to you." "Of course, Mom. I'll be there this afternoon." He arrived at 5. I watched him enter, and my heart tightened. That was my baby. The boy I breastfed, the one I cared for when he had chickenpox. The one I applauded at his graduation. The man his father taught to ride a bike in this very yard. When had I stopped knowing him? "What's wrong, Mom? You sound worried." We sat in the living room. On the green sofa Isabella hated. I took a deep breath. "Michael, on Christmas night I heard Isabella talking to her mother in the kitchen." I saw his face change. He knew exactly what I was going to talk about. "They were talking about this house, about selling it when I die, about putting me in a nursing home." The silence that followed was deafening. "Mom, it's not what you think." "It's not what I think." I stood up, the blood boiling in my veins. "Then how is it? Michael?" "What part did I misunderstand? The part where your wife is waiting for me to die, or the part where you are already considering locking me up in a home?" "Mom, lower your voice. This is my house. I'll shout if I feel like it." Michael ran his hands over his face, nervous. I knew him so well I could see every lie forming before it left his mouth. Isabella didn't mean it. She sometimes speaks without thinking. You know how women are when they're with their mothers. "Don't give me those cheap excuses," I interrupted. "So you are planning to sell my house?" "It's not just your house, Mom. Someday it will be mine too. It's the inheritance Dad left me." Those words hit me harder than any of Isabella's insults. "Your father built this house for me, so I would have a safe roof over my head when he was gone, not so you and your wife could sell it like it was a vacant lot." "Mom, you need to be realistic. You're alone here. This house is too big for one person. There are very nice homes where you'd have company, with activities, with people your age. I don't want to be with people my age. I want to be in my house, the house where your sister was born, where your father died in my arms, where I keep every memory of my life." "But Mom, think about it. Think. We could visit you more often if you were in a place closer to our work. And this house, it's worth a lot of money. Money that Isabella and I could use for our future. To have children." I sat down again. My legs wouldn't hold me. "Have children," I whispered. "You're going to use the money from my house to have children who will never know this house, who will never know where their father grew up. You don't understand." "You're right. I don't understand how my son turned into this." Michael stood up, annoyed. His eyes no longer had warmth, just impatience. "I knew you would react this way. That's why Isabella told me not to say anything to you yet. You're too emotional. Mom, you can't think logically." "Emotional? Of course I'm emotional. I'm talking about my life, about my home. Look, Mom, I didn't come here to argue. I came because you called me. But if you're just going to attack Isabella and make me feel guilty for thinking about my future, I'd better go." "Michael, please sit down. Let's talk calmly." "No, I already know how this ends. You crying, me feeling like the terrible son. Well, you know what? Mom, I'm tired. Tired of feeling guilty for having my own life. Tired of everything having to revolve around your feelings." He walked to the door. I followed him, pleading as I never thought I would. "Michael, please, don't go like this. You're my son. I love you. I just want to understand what's happening." He stopped with his hand on the doorknob. He looked at me over his shoulder. "What's happening, Mom, is that you are no longer my priority. My priority now is Isabella. She's my wife, and if I have to choose between you two, I've already chosen." The door closed. I stood in the entryway, staring at the empty space where my son had been, the only son I had left in this city, the boy who had been my world, and he had just chosen a woman who wanted to erase me from existence. I walked like a zombie to my room. I sat on the bed. I took the rosary my mother gave me when I made my first communion, and I prayed. I prayed like I hadn't prayed in years. I didn't ask for things to get better. I asked for strength, because in that moment I understood something fundamental. No one was going to save me. Not Michael, not Valerie, who was far away, not God himself. If I wanted to keep my dignity, my house, my life, I would have to fight for it myself. And I was damn well going to fight, because sometimes a mother's love has to transform into something else to survive, into something colder, more calculating, more dangerous. After that conversation with Michael, something changed in me, or maybe something broke. I was no longer the complacent mother who swallowed her pride and smiled. But I wasn't yet the woman who would confront everything. I was in a dangerous, in-between place, a place where you observe, where you take notes, where you prepare, and while I was preparing, Isabella was advancing. January was the month of my complete humiliation. It all started when Michael called me one Sunday morning. "Mom, Isabella and I are going to spend the afternoon there. She wants to reorganize some things." "What things?" I asked, my stomach tightening. "Just the living room and the dining room. She says there's too much clutter." "Don't worry, we're not going to throw away anything important." They arrived at 3 in the afternoon. Isabella brought cardboard boxes and trash bags. She wore her hair in a high ponytail, sweats, ready to work. "Hello, Camilla." She greeted me with that smile that no longer fooled me. "We're going to do a deep clean. You'll see how much better you'll feel with less stuff around." She started with the living room. She took the embroidered cushions my sister Lucy had given me and put them in a box. "These are very old." She took the painting of the Virgin Mary that Henry had hung off the wall. This gives the space a very outdated feel. Isabella. My husband put up that painting. We'll store it. Don't worry. But here, in this spot, a mirror will look better. It makes the living room look bigger. Michael carried the boxes without a word, without looking at me. But the worst came when she entered my bedroom. Camila, we need to talk about your closet. You have clothes from 20 years ago. Let me help you select what stays and what goes. I don't need help with my clothes. Of course you do. Look, these dresses don't even fit you anymore, and these sweaters are moth-eaten. We have to throw all this out. She started taking out my clothes, judging every garment. There were dresses I wore to my children's birthdays, blouses Henry gave me, sweaters my mother knitted. Each piece had a story. Each piece was a piece of my life. This goes, this too, she said, throwing my life into black trash bags. Stop, I shouted. You're not throwing away my clothes. Camila, be reasonable. You haven't worn this in years. It's just taking up space. It's my space, my closet, my room. Isabella sighed with that exaggerated patience you use with children or difficult old people. Michael, come here, please. My son entered the room. Isabella pointed at the bags. Your mom won't let me help her. Tell her this is for her own good. Michael looked at me. I saw guilt in his eyes, but also resignation. Mom, Isabella is right. You don't need all these clothes. Let her help you. I sat on my bed and let them. What else could I do if I resisted? They called me difficult, stubborn, senile. If I cried, I was too emotional. There was no way to win. They took 5 bags of my clothes, 5 bags of memories that ended up in some dumpster, but that was just the beginning. The following week, Isabella arrived with a proposal. Camila, I have an idea. What if you help me with some household chores? It would be a way to stay active. Doctors say older people need activity so they don't get depressed. What kind of chores? Well, I'm going to start working from here twice a week. I have virtual meetings. If you could wash some dishes, run the vacuum, make coffee, it would be a great help, and that way you won't feel so lonely. That's how I became the maid in my own house, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Isabella arrived with her laptop. She set herself up in my dining room, at my table, surrounded by papers and coffee cups. And I washed her dishes. I cleaned the space she dirtied. I served her water when she snapped her fingers without looking up from the screen. Camila, can you bring me a pillow for my back? Camila, did you wash the breakfast dishes yet? Camila, I need silence. I have an important call. In my own house, in the dining room where I celebrated my children's birthdays, where I mourned Henry's death, where I spent 1,000 nights sewing clothes to save money. There I was, being treated like a servant, and Michael did nothing. The few times he came and saw it, he just said, "It's good that you're keeping busy, Mom." But the moment that broke me arrived on a Thursday in February. Isabella was working as usual. I had prepared lentil soup, Michael's favorite food since he was a child. I set the table with my good dishes, the ones I had inherited from my grandmother. I served 3 plates. When Isabella finished her call, she sat at the table. I did too. "What are you doing?" she asked, looking at me as if I were a fly in her soup. "I'm going to eat," I replied, confused. "No, Camila, I have another meeting in 20 minutes and I need to concentrate. Eat in the kitchen, please." The world stopped. "This is my table," I said with a trembling voice. "In my house." "Yes, but I'm working. I need space. Besides, you're used to eating in the kitchen, aren't you? I've seen you do it many times." She was right. For the last few months, when she was here. I ate standing by the stove, nibbling on cold tortillas, hiding in my own kitchen. "Isabella, please. Camila, don't make things complicated. Just do what I ask." I stood up. I took my plate. I walked to the kitchen with my legs shaking. I sat on the little stool by the stove, the one where I sit to peel potatoes. And there, eating my soup with trembling hands, tears falling into the plate, I understood something terrible. I was no longer the owner of this house. I was a burden, an obstacle, an old woman who was in the way. That night, alone in my bed, I looked at the ceiling and thought of Henry. "Forgive me," I whispered to his photograph. "Forgive me for not taking care of what we built together, for letting them erase us." But then I remembered the words my husband told me 3 days before he died, when he already knew he didn't have much time left. "Camilla, you are stronger than you think. When I'm gone, you're going to have to be. Promise me you'll never let anyone take away your dignity." I had promised him, and it was time to keep it. Because there is a limit to everything. There is a point where pain transforms into something different, into clarity, into decision, into a cold fire that isn't put out with tears, but with action. The discovery came by accident. Or maybe destiny has strange ways of giving you the tools just when you need them most. It was a Tuesday in March. Isabella had arrived early to work. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard her phone ring in the dining room. "Camilla, can you answer that if it's from the office? Tell them I'll call back in 5 minutes. I'm in the bathroom." I picked up the phone. The screen said Roddy. It wasn't from any office. I hesitated, but something made me answer. "Hello. Baby, did you talk to the lawyer yet?" said a man's voice. Young, confident, my blood ran cold. "Who is this?" I asked. There was a silence. Then the voice changed. Nervous. "Sorry, wrong number." He hung up. "Baby." He had called Isabella baby. I left the phone where it was, my hands trembling. When Isabella came out of the bathroom, I was already back in the kitchen, pretending nothing had happened. "Did anyone call?" she asked. "No, nobody." I lied. That night I couldn't sleep. Did Isabella have a lover? Did Michael know? And what was this about a lawyer? The following days I was more attentive. I watched Isabella's every move, every call she made walking out to the patio, every text she wrote with a smile on her lips. On Thursday, my opportunity came. Isabella was in the bathroom. She had left her purse in the dining room. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. I knew it was wrong. I knew I shouldn't. But after months of humiliation, of being treated as invisible, I no longer cared about the rules. I opened the purse. Inside was a blue folder. I took it out with trembling hands. I opened it. And there, on perfectly organized white sheets, was the whole truth. They were legal documents. The first was a draft of a petition for conservatorship. My full name, Camilla Josefina Renteria, date of birth, address. I read the lines, my eyes filling with tears. The alleged incapacitated person shows evident signs of advanced cognitive decline, forgets conversations, cannot manage her finances, shows erratic behavior. A psychiatric evaluation is requested to determine her legal capacity and appoint a guardian. It was all a lie. Every word was a perfect, legal lie, designed to take everything from me. I kept reviewing. There were more documents, property appraisal, $3 $850,000, quotes from geriatric residences, Memory Lane Villa, $18 $500 monthly, Santa Rita Nursing Home, $15,000 monthly, handwritten calculations on a sheet. If we sell house, $3 $850,000, minus legal fees, $150,000, minus nursing home, 5 years, $100,000. Leaves, $2 $600,000 for us. 5 years. They were giving me 5 years to live. And they had already calculated how much it would cost to keep me locked up while they waited for me to die. But the worst was in the last pages. Drafts of WhatsApp messages, printed out, as evidence or backup. Isabella, I already spoke with the lawyer, Roddy. He says the process can take 6 months if she cooperates, maximum 1 year if she resists. Roddy, and what if Michael changes his mind? Isabella, he won't. I already have him convinced it's the best thing for his mom. He's weak. He does what I say. Roddy, I love you, my queen. When we have the money, we'll go to Florida together like we dreamed. Isabella. Don't worry. Love, everything is going according to plan. Michael doesn't suspect a thing. He thinks I love him. When they give me the money from the house, I'll file for divorce and we'll leave. He'll be left with his guilt, and we'll have the life we deserve." Tears fell on the papers, staining the ink. My daughter-in-law didn't just want to rob me. She wanted to erase me, and while she locked me in a nursing home to die alone, she planned to run away with her lover, using the money from the house my husband built with his own hands. And Michael, my son, was just a tool, a useful idiot that she manipulated like a puppet. I heard the water in the bathroom turn off. With trembling hands, I took out my old cell phone, the one Isabella said I should change because it doesn't even work anymore. I photographed every page, every document, every message. I put the folder back exactly as it was and closed the purse just as Isabella came out. "Are you okay, Camilla? You look pale." "I'm fine, just a little low blood pressure." "You should go to the doctor. At your age, those things are delicate." She smiled at me, that perfect smile she had practiced for 3 years. "Yes, maybe I will," I said, smiling back. That night, when she left, I sat on my bed with the phone in my hands. I reviewed the photos over and over. Every word was a knife. But it was also ammunition. Now I knew the whole truth. And the truth, although painful, makes you powerful. I called Valerie. It was 11 at night, but she answered on the second ring. "Mom, what happened? Honey, I need you to come, and I need you to recommend the best lawyer you know." "What happened, Mom? You're scaring me." I took a deep breath. "What happened is that I stopped being a victim, and it's time for Isabella to learn that this old woman is not as stupid as she thinks." There was a silence. Then I heard Valerie's voice, firm and full of fury. "I'm going to destroy her life. Mom, I swear to you." "No, honey, I'm going to do that, but I need your help. You have it, all of it." I hung up and looked at Henry's photo on the nightstand. "Almost, my love, I'm almost getting our dignity back." Because there's something Isabella didn't know. Women of my generation survived economic crises. We raised children with almost nothing. We buried husbands and kept going. We are not fragile. We are steel, tempered in fire. And when we decide to fight, we don't forgive. Valerie arrived 2 days later. I saw her get out of the taxi with a large suitcase, and I knew she came prepared to stay as long as necessary. My daughter inherited her father's character. Strong, direct, no half measures. When she entered the house, she hugged me so tight I felt like all the tears held back for the last few months wanted to burst out. "Oh, Mom," she whispered in my ear, "you look so thin. What have they done to you?" I didn't answer. I just hugged her tighter. That night, sitting at the kitchen table with cups of coffee, I showed her the photographs. I watched her face go from disbelief to pure fury. "That damn," she muttered between her teeth. "That damn snake." "Don't swear," I told her out of habit, although deep down I agreed. "Mom, this is attempted fraud, financial abuse, conspiracy. We can press criminal charges." "I don't want scandals, not yet. Not. First I need to protect the house, protect myself, and then we'll see." Valerie nodded. She took out her phone and dialed a number. "Mr. Aguirre, this is Valerie Torres." "Yes, Henry's daughter. I need your help with something urgent. It's about my mother." Mr. Aguirre had been my husband's lawyer for 30 years, a 72-year-old man, one of those who still believes in honor and a man's word. Henry trusted him completely. The next day, Mr. Aguirre arrived at my house with his worn leather briefcase and his bifocals. He sat in my living room, reviewed the photographs on his iPad with absolute concentration. When he finished, he took off his glasses and looked at me with sadness. "Camilla, this is serious, very serious. This woman isn't just committing fraud, she's planning to steal your life. I know, but we have advantages. First, you are completely lucid. Any psychiatric evaluation would prove that. Second, we have proof of her plan. Third, we can act before she does. What do you propose? Mr. Aguirre opened his briefcase and took out documents. I propose 3 things. First, modify your will immediately. Second, create a trust that protects this house. Third, gather more evidence for when the time comes to confront her. Explain the trust to me. It's simple. We transfer ownership of the house to a trust of which you are the sole beneficiary as long as you live. You have total control. You can live here, rent it, sell it if you want, but Michael cannot inherit it directly. When you pass away, the trust is distributed as you decide. It can be for your grandchildren, for Valerie, for charity, whatever you want, but Isabella will never be able to touch it. I felt as if a weight had been lifted from my chest, and Michael can't do anything. Nothing. The house ceases to be part of your direct inheritance, even if they tried the conservatorship, which wouldn't prosper. They couldn't touch the trust. Let's do it. We spent 3 days preparing everything. Mr. Aguirre brought the documents. I signed them. Valerie photographed every page, saved copies online, on her computer, on 3 different USB drives. In this family, we don't trust anyone anymore, my daughter said with bitter irony. We also scheduled a private psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Mendoza came to the house, asked me questions for 2 hours, gave me memory tests, reasoning, orientation. In the end, she smiled. Mrs. Camilla, your mind is clearer than many people in their 50s. I'm going to give you a detailed report that you can use legally if anyone questions your capacity. But the most important part of the plan was missing: the additional evidence. Mom, we need to record her, Valerie said. Not just the documents. We need her voice, her words, confessing everything. How? My daughter smiled. That smile she inherited from her father when he had a brilliant idea. Leave it to me. Valerie bought a small recording device, the size of a USB stick. We hid it in a vase in the living room, right where Isabella always sat to work. When she talks on the phone with her lover, we'll record everything, Valerie explained, and when the perfect moment comes, we'll confront her. When will that moment be? Valerie looked at me with determination. When she feels most secure, when she thinks she's already won. That's when predators let their guard down. Over the next 2 weeks, we recorded everything. Every conversation Isabella had with Roddy, every derogatory comment about me when she thought I wasn't listening, every cruel laugh. Almost, my love. The lawyer says in 2 months we can file the petition. And what if the old woman resists? It doesn't matter. I have Michael eating out of my hand. He'll sign whatever I put in front of him. We also discovered more things. Isabella had taken out credit cards in Michael's name without him knowing. She owed $230,000. She had forged my son's signature on documents. She wasn't just a manipulator. She was a criminal. One afternoon, while Isabella worked in my dining room, Valerie and I were in the kitchen listening to the live recording on her phone. We heard her talking to Roddy. I'm tired of pretending, my love, tired of smiling at the old woman, of putting up with Michael. But it's worth it. Almost $4 million is worth any sacrifice. Valerie squeezed my hand. I squeezed hers back. Soon. Mom, she whispered. Very soon. That night, after Isabella left, I sat with Valerie and Mr. Aguirre. On the table were all the documents, the signed trust, the modified will, the recordings, the photographs, the psychiatric report, the fraudulent credit card statements. Everything is ready, said Mr. Aguirre. Now all we need is the moment. What moment? I asked. Valerie smiled, a smile that gave me chills and hope at the same time. Your birthday, Mom. April 15th, 3 weeks away. Weeks. We're going to organize a dinner. We'll invite Michael, Isabella, Aunt Lucy, some neighbors, and there, in front of everyone, we're going to reveal who your daughter-in-law really is. Isn't that too cruel? Cruel. Valerie leaned toward me. Mom, she planned to lock you in a nursing home and steal the house Dad built. Cruel doesn't even begin to cover it. This is justice. Mr. Aguirre cleared his throat. Camila, We can also do it privately if you prefer. Less drama, less pain. I thought about all the moments of humiliation, about eating in the kitchen of my own house, about seeing my memories thrown in the trash, about hearing my son say I was no longer his priority. No, I said with a firm voice. Let it be public. Let everyone see what she did. Let Michael see who he married. Let Isabella's mother see what kind of daughter she raised. Valerie smiled. Mr. Aguirre nodded. Then prepare yourselves, the lawyer said, because this is going to be memorable. And it certainly was, because there are moments in life where you stop being the prey and become the hunter, where the silence breaks and the truth explodes like fire, and I was ready to burn everything false until only ashes remained. April 15th dawned with a clear sky. Ironic, I thought, because what was coming was a storm. Isabella had insisted on helping me with my birthday, but this time I had accepted with a smile. She thought I was finally bending to her will. She didn't know she was walking straight into her own trap. Camila, let me organize everything. You just relax and enjoy your day, she had said the week before. Thank you, Isabella. You're so good to me. The words tasted like poison in my mouth, but I said them with sweetness. Valerie had officially returned to Dallas, but in reality, she was staying at my sister Lucy's house, just 10 minutes away. The plan was for her to arrive as a surprise for my birthday, the morning of the 15th. I got up at 5 as usual. I made tamales, spicy stew, hibiscus tea, everything exactly as I would for any celebration. Isabella would arrive at 2 to supervise and add her modern touches. But this time, what she didn't know was that every detail was calculated. Mr. Aguirre had installed discrete cameras in the living room, small, invisible, streaming live to his phone. Valerie had access too. We wanted to record everything that would happen that night. At 2 o'clock sharp, Isabella arrived with Michael. She brought silver metallic balloons that said 69 in giant numbers. Michael carried a box with a cake. "Happy birthday, Mom," my son said, kissing my forehead. For a second, I forgot everything. He was my baby. But then I saw Isabella behind him, with that calculating smile, and I remembered. "Thank you, honey." Isabella began to reorganize the living room. She removed my flowers and put in hers. She changed the tablecloths, moved the chairs. Every gesture was a declaration. "This is mine, not yours." I let her. I smiled. I nodded. I thanked her. "Oh, Camilla, you look so lovely today. Is that a new dress?" "No, it's 10 years old, but I take good care of it." "Well, it looks beautiful." Lies wrapped in honey. The guests began to arrive at 6. My sister Lucy with her husband, the neighbors from next door, Ramon and Ophelia, who had known me since I moved here, Isabella's friends, 5 elegant women who looked at me with condescending pity, Isabella's mother, Stella, with her pearl necklace and her air of superiority, and finally, at 6:30, Valerie arrived. "Surprise! Mom!" she shouted from the door. I ran to hug her, and this time the tears I shed were real. My daughter, my support, my strength. I saw how Isabella turned pale. She didn't expect Valerie to be here. She exchanged a nervous look with Michael. "What a surprise, sister-in-law," Isabella said, her voice tense. "We didn't know you were coming. Of course, it's my mother's birthday. Where else would I be?" The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. We sat down to dinner. Isabella had insisted on arranging the table. She was at the head, with Michael by her side, her mother at the other end, and I was relegated to the side, near the kitchen, exactly where she wanted me. I served the stew. I passed the tortillas. Isabella received compliments for organizing such a lovely dinner. I was invisible, again, until I tried to sit in an empty chair that was left at the main table. "That seat is for my mother," Isabella shouted, with a voice so loud that everyone stopped talking. "You sit over there next to the kitchen in case we need anything served." The silence was absolute. Isabella's friends looked away, uncomfortable. The neighbor's eyes widened in surprise. Lucy stood up from her chair, furious, but Valerie put a hand on her arm. "Wait," my daughter whispered. Michael had his mouth open but said nothing. As always, I remained standing, holding my plate, feeling 20 pairs of eyes fixed on me, and then something inside me clicked. There was no more fear, only clarity. I stood up slowly, very slowly. I left the plate on the table gently. I walked to the stereo where the happy music Isabella had put on was playing. I turned it off. The silence became heavy, dense. Then I walked to the kitchen. I turned off the gas on the stove. The fire went out with a whisper. The pot stopped bubbling. I returned to the living room. Everyone looked at me as if I had gone crazy. I smiled, a calm, serene smile. "I want to thank you all for coming to celebrate in my house," I said with a clear voice. "Yes, my house, because although my daughter-in-law seems to forget it constantly, this property is in my name. Every brick, every window, every corner of this place I built with my husband Henry 40 years ago." Isabella stood up. "Camilla, what are you doing?" "We're in the middle of dinner." "Sit down, Isabella," I said firmly. I'm not finished yet." Something in my tone made her obey. She sat down, pale. Valerie got up and brought a laptop. She connected it to the living room television. Mr. Aguirre appeared from the kitchen where he had been waiting silently. "You see," I continued, "I have been very foolish these last few months, very naive. I let myself be treated like a maid in my own home. I let my memories be thrown in the trash. I let them make me feel like a burden." "Mom, what are you talking about?" Michael asked, confused. "I'm talking about this." Valerie pressed a key. On the television screen, the photographs of the documents appeared, the petition for conservatorship, the quotes from nursing homes, the calculations of how much money would be left after locking me up. The murmurs exploded. Isabella's friends covered their mouths. Ramon shook his head, disbelieving. Stella, Isabella's mother, had turned white as paper. "What is this?" Michael shouted, jumping up. "Isabella, I don't—" It's taken out of context," my daughter-in-law stammered, looking for words. "Context," I said with a cold voice. "What context does the old woman won't last much longer need, or when we have the money from the house?" Valerie changed to the next image, the messages with Roddy. Isabella stood up as if she had been electrocuted. "Turn that off. You have no right. I have every right. It's my house, my birthday, and my truth." The messages were projected one after another on the giant screen. Every word was a hammer blow, every sentence a conviction. "Michael is weak. He does what I say. When I have the money, I'll file for divorce. I love you, Roddy. Soon we'll be in Florida." Michael read with his mouth open, his hands shaking, tears running down his face. "No, it can't be," he whispered. "Oh, but there's more," Valerie said with a sharp voice. "This is the history of the credit cards you took out in my brother's name without his consent. $230,000 in debt, documents signed with his forged signature." Mr. Aguirre stepped forward. "Which constitutes bank fraud, forgery of documents, and marriage for profit with intent to defraud, all criminally prosecutable." Isabella looked for the exit, but Valerie blocked the front door and Lucy the kitchen door. "Sit down, Isabella," I repeated. "If you try to leave, Mr. Aguirre has contacts in the prosecutor's office. You can leave here in handcuffs or with dignity. You choose." She slumped into the chair, defeated. Her mother stood up in a rage. "This is a setup, a conspiracy against my daughter." "No, Stella," Lucy said with venom in her voice. "This is justice. Your daughter tried to steal my sister's life and almost succeeded." The guests began to take out their phones. Some were recording, others sending messages. In less than 10 minutes, the whole neighborhood would know the truth. Isabella was crying now, with her hands covering her face. But I felt no pity, only a cold emptiness where motherly love used to be. I looked at Michael. My son was devastated, staring at the woman he had married as if she were a stranger. "Michael," I said softly, "I gave you life. I raised you, I loved you, and you chose this woman over me. But you know what? It doesn't matter anymore. I approached him and put my hand on his wet cheek, because I also chose. I chose my dignity over your love, and I don't regret it. Revenge, I discovered that night, is not a dish best served cold. It's a mirror you force others to look into, and sometimes the image they see destroys them more than any punishment. Isabella cried with her head in her hands, but I knew they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of rage, of frustration at being caught. I knew her too well by now. Michael was still standing, staring at the images on the screen as if he were watching his own life fall apart, and in a way, he was. "Mom." His voice was just a broken whisper. "I didn't know. About the lover, the cards. I thought she really cared about you, that the nursing home was for your own good." "For my good," I interrupted, and my voice sounded harsher than I intended. "Michael, your wife calculated how many years I had left to live. 5. She gave me 5 years. Does that sound like concern to you?" He couldn't answer. Valerie changed the image on the screen. "But wait, because this is just getting started," my daughter said with a cold smile. "Mom, do you want to tell them, or should I?" I looked at her and nodded. It was time to drop the last bomb. "Go ahead." "My daughter." Valerie connected an audio cable to the television. Everyone in the room was completely silent, even Isabella's friends, who had previously defended her with their gazes, had now moved away from her as if she had a contagious disease. "What you are about to hear," Valerie explained, "are recordings of phone conversations Isabella had in this house over the last 2 weeks. All legally recorded, as it occurred on my mother's private property with her consent." She pressed play. Isabella's voice filled the room, clear, confident, without the sweet tone she used with me. "Almost. My love, the lawyer says in 2 months we can file the conservatorship petition. He knows a psychiatrist who, for $50,000, will sign the report we need," Roddy's voice replied. "And what if the old woman resists? I've heard those processes can take years." "It doesn't matter. I have a plan B. I can put medication in her food. Things to make her seem confused, forgetful. With testimonies from neighbors and a couple of well-staged scenes, any judge will declare her incompetent." My stomach turned hearing those words. I thought about all the times I had felt dizzy after eating what Isabella prepared, about the times I forgot simple things and wondered if I was really losing my memory. She was poisoning me. Slowly. "That's a lie!" Isabella screamed, jumping to her feet. "They edited that recording. That's not my voice." "Oh, really?" Valerie smiled. "Mr. Aguirre, could you explain to the lady about the authenticity of the recordings?" The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "The recordings were analyzed by a forensic audio expert. He confirmed there is no editing, that the voice is authentic. I have the notarized report right here. We also identified the number this Roddy was calling from. It's already traced. He lives in Florida, as mentioned in the messages. He's 28 years old and has a record for fraud." Isabella looked for support from her mother, but Stella was sitting with her face in her hands, ashamed. The recording continued. "And Michael, does he suspect anything?" "Not at all. He's so predictable. I tell him his mom is losing her mind and he believes me. I tell him we need that house and he's convinced it's for our future. He's weak, Roddy, he always has been. His dad died when he was still young, so he never had a strong figure to teach him character. He's perfect to manipulate." Michael sank into the nearest chair. He had lost all the color in his face. One of Isabella's friends stood up without a word and left the house. Then another, and another, in less than 2 minutes. All of Isabella's friends were gone. Only the neighbors, my family, Stella, and Michael remained. "There's more," Valerie said. Relentless. Another recording. This time Isabella talking to someone else. An older woman's voice. "Mrs. Mendez, thank you so much for agreeing to testify if needed. You just have to say you saw Mrs. Camila confused, talking to herself. forgetting to lock the door. I'll pay you $30,000 for your testimony. And what if they ask me a lot of questions in court? Don't worry. The lawyer will prepare everything. You just confirm what we already discussed." Ramon stood up, furious. "That's Alma Mendez, the one who lives 3 houses down." He turned to me. "Camilla, 2 weeks ago she asked me if I had seen you acting strangely lately. I told her you were perfectly fine. Now I understand why she was asking." Isabella wasn't crying anymore. She was motionless, like a statue of ice, knowing that every second that passed sank her deeper. "I'd like to clarify something," Mr. Aguirre said, stepping forward. "Mrs. Camilla voluntarily underwent a complete psychiatric evaluation 3 weeks ago. The results show she has full mental faculties. There is no cognitive decline, no confusion. In fact, her memory and reasoning abilities are above average for her age." He took out a folder with official documents and placed them on the table. Any attempt to declare her incompetent would have been immediately dismissed, but the emotional damage and the time wasted in lawsuits, that was part of the plan, wasn't it? Isabella. To keep her busy in legal proceedings, spending money on lawyers, while you continued to manipulate Michael, Isabella finally spoke, with a venomous voice I had never heard from her. "So what if it was, this old woman has more than she needs, a huge house all to herself, money saved up, for what? To die and let it all rot." At least I was going to put those resources to use. The audacity left me speechless. "Resources," I repeated slowly. "That's what you call the house I built with my husband. Resources. Call it whatever you want. The reality is you're in the way. Michael is too weak to tell you. But I'm not. You're in the way of your own life, clinging to the past, to memories, to old things that don't matter anymore. I was just trying to free you from that." "Free me," I approached her, and for the first time in my life, I felt pure hatred. "Free me by locking me in a nursing home, by poisoning me to make me look senile, by stealing the house my husband built with his hands. Your husband is dead," Isabella spat, "and you should be too. Mecca." The silence that followed was so deep I could hear my own heart beating. Michael stood up slowly, walked over to Isabella, and for the first time in 3 years, I saw fury in my son's eyes. "Get out of this house," he said, his voice trembling with contained rage. "Now!" "Michael, Now!" he shouted with a strength I had never known he had. "Get out of this house before I call the police myself." Isabella looked at him with pure hatred. Then she looked at me. In her eyes, there was no remorse, only fury at having lost. "This isn't over," she said in a low, threatening voice. Valerie stepped forward. "Oh, yes, Isabella, it ends here, because we have copies of all this in 4 different places. If you try anything against my mother or my brother, this goes to the prosecutor's office in less than an hour, and believe me, with this evidence, you would spend years in prison." Mr. Aguirre added, "I also prepared a restraining order. If you come within 200 yards of this property or Mrs. Camilla, you go straight to jail. Understood?" Isabella grabbed her purse. Her mother, Stella, followed her in silence, head bowed, before leaving. Isabella turned one last time. "You're going to regret this, old woman. You're going to die alone and forgotten." I smiled, a calm, serene smile. "I'd rather die alone and with dignity than surrounded by snakes like you." The door closed behind her, and for the first time in 3 years, I could breathe in my own house, because the greatest victory isn't destroying your enemy. It's reclaiming what they took from you, your voice, your space, your power. And I had just reclaimed all 3. When the door closed behind Isabella, the house fell into a heavy silence. The neighbors said goodbye in low voices, with sincere hugs and looks of support. Ramon squeezed my hand before leaving. "Camilla, if you need anything, we're 3 houses away." "Thank you, Ramon." Lucy came over and hugged me tight. "Sister, I'm so proud of you. Henry would be proud." I nodded, unable to speak. If I spoke, I would cry, and I didn't want to cry yet. When everyone left, only Valerie, Mr. Aguirre, Michael, and I remained. My son was sitting on the green sofa that Isabella hated so much, with his head in his hands. His body was shaking. I don't know if from rage, shame, or pain. Probably all three. Valerie sat next to him. She put a hand on his shoulder. "Michael." "No," he said in a broken voice. "Don't say anything. There's nothing to say." "There's a lot to say," my daughter replied firmly but without cruelty. "It can wait." Mr. Aguirre cleared his throat. "Camilla, Michael, we need to talk about the legal aspects, the divorce, the debts, the restraining order." "Mr. Aguirre," I said softly, "could you come back tomorrow? I think tonight we need to process everything first." The lawyer nodded with understanding. "Of course, I'll leave you as a family view. Call me if you need anything." He approached and kissed my forehead as my father used to do. "You did the right thing, Camilla. Henry would be very proud." When he left, the three of us remained. My real family. Broken, but real. Michael finally lifted his head. His eyes were red, swollen. He looked like he had aged 10 years in one night. "Mom, His voice broke. "I don't even know where to begin." I sat across from him. Valerie moved to the armchair, giving us space. "Start at the beginning," I said softly. "I'm sorry." Tears ran freely down his face. "I'm so sorry. I was a coward, an idiot." "An idiot," I said simply. "You were." He winced as if I had hit him, but I continued. "You were also manipulated. Isabella was very good at what she did." "It's no excuse." He wiped his face angrily. "I saw how she treated you. I saw how you changed, how you became smaller every day, and I did nothing. I chose to believe her instead of trusting my instinct." "Why?" Valerie asked. Her voice wasn't accusing, just genuinely curious. "Why did you choose to believe her?" Michael took a deep breath, searching for the words. "Because she made me feel important. After Dad died, I felt lost, like I had to be the man of the house, but I didn't know how. Isabella came and made me feel strong, capable, like I could be someone. And when she told me Mom was being difficult, that she needed help, that I was doing the right thing, I wanted to believe her, because the alternative was to accept that I was failing everyone." "Michael," I said, feeling my heart break, "your father never expected you to be the man of the house. He just expected you to be a good person." He collapsed, completely. He fell to his knees in front of me, sobbing like when he was a child and got hurt playing. "Forgive me, Mom. Please, forgive me. I let her humiliate you. I let her plan to lock you up. I let her make you feel invisible in your own house. How can you even look at me?" I hugged him. Not because everything was okay, not because the pain disappeared, but because he was my son. And despite everything, he was still my son. "Michael, I'm not going to lie to you. It hurt. It hurt more than I can explain. To feel that my own son had abandoned me. I know, and I can never make up for it." I took his face in my hands, forcing him to look at me. "I don't expect you to make up for it, but I do expect you to learn that you never again allow anyone, to make you betray the people you love. I promise you." His hands trembled, holding mine. "I swear on Dad's memory that it will never happen again." Valerie joined the hug. The three of us cried together, releasing years of pain, betrayal, and silence after a long time. We separated. Valerie brought tissues. We wiped our faces as best we could. "Michael, Mr. Aguirre explained to me that you have debts of $230,000 from the cards Isabella took out in your name." He nodded miserably. "I'm going to help you. I continued. I'm not going to pay all of it, because you need to learn responsibility. But I'll pay half if you pay the other half by working a second job or whatever is necessary. Understood? Mom, you don't have to. Yes, I do, because you're my son, and I'm not going to let one bad decision ruin your life. But I'm not going to solve everything for you either. Thank you. His voice was just a whisper. I don't deserve your help. Probably not, I said with a small smile. But that's a mother's love, unconditional and irrational. Valerie served us coffee. We sat at the kitchen table, where so many important conversations had happened over the years. So, what's next? My daughter asked. Michael needs to get divorced as soon as possible, I said. Mr. Aguirre can handle that. Isabella will want money, I'm sure. Let her try, Valerie growled. With all the evidence we have, she won't see a dime. I don't want to see her ever again, Michael said firmly. I don't want her money back. I don't want explanations. I don't want anything. I just want her to disappear from my life. She will, I assured him. The restraining order takes care of that. We were silent for a few minutes, processing everything. Finally, Michael spoke. Mom, I know I can't live here again. Not after everything. But can I visit you? Can we try to rebuild this? I looked him in the eyes. I saw genuine remorse. I saw my son, not the manipulated man he had been. Yes, I said, slowly, with time. But yes. He wiped his tears again. I don't deserve you. Maybe not, but you have me anyway. Because forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing love over resentment, family over pride. But that forgiveness has conditions. It has limits. And this time, I will set those limits very clearly. The next morning came with a strange clarity. I slept deeply for the first time in months when I woke up. Valerie was already in the kitchen making coffee. Good morning, Mom. How do you feel? Free, I answered honestly. For the first time in 3 years, I feel free. We ate breakfast peacefully. Scrambled eggs, refried beans, hot tortillas, simple food that tasted like heaven after so much time eating with my stomach clenched with anxiety. At 10, Mr. Aguirre arrived with a briefcase full of documents. Michael came half an hour later, with deep, dark circles under his eyes, but a determined look. We sat in the living room. The lawyer spread the papers on the coffee table. All right, let's do this in parts. First, the divorce. Michael, with the evidence we have, we can process and express divorce on grounds of deception, fraud, and emotional infidelity. You don't need to give her anything. How long will it take? Michael asked. With a cooperative judge and the evidence we have, 3 months maximum. Isabella can fight, but she'll lose. Her lawyers will know that and advise her to sign. Perfect. Second, Mr. Aguirre continued, the credit cards. We have proof of signature forgery. Michael can press criminal charges and the banks will cancel the debts. However, I asked, if Michael presses criminal charges, Isabella will go to prison, probably 3 to 5 years. Silence filled the room. I looked at my son. He was staring at his hands. Do I want her to go to prison? He muttered, more to himself than to us. Part of me does. Part of me wants to see her suffer like she made me suffer, like she made Mom suffer. Michael, I said softly, this decision is yours. No one will judge you for what you choose. But Mom, she planned to poison you, lock you in a nursing home, steal your house. Doesn't she deserve to pay for that? I thought carefully before answering. She deserves consequences, yes, but prison. Son, you have to be able to live with your decision. Ask yourself, will sending her to jail give you peace or just more bitterness? Michael closed his eyes. He took several deep breaths. I don't want to be like her, he said finally. I don't want to be cruel, but I also don't want her to get away with it. There's a middle ground, Mr. Aguirre suggested. We can pressure her to sign the divorce on very favorable terms, that she assumes all responsibility for the debts, and that she renounces any future claims. If she complies, we don't press charges. If she doesn't comply or bothers you again, then everything goes to the prosecutor's office." "That," Michael said with relief. "That sounds fair. All right, I'll contact her today." We spent the next 2 hours reviewing documents. The house trust was perfect. My updated will protected my grandchildren. Everything was in order. At 2 in the afternoon, Mr. Aguirre's phone rang. "It's her," he said. He put it on speaker. "Mr. Aguirre." Isabella's voice sounded tired, defeated. "Mrs. Isabella." "I'm calling on behalf of Michael Torres. We have a proposal." "I'm listening." Mr. Aguirre explained the terms. "Immediate divorce. She assumes all debts, waives any financial compensation, permanent restraining order." "And if I accept?" Isabella asked after a long silence. "We won't press criminal charges for fraud, forgery, or attempted dispossession. You have my word." "And the old woman agrees." "Mrs. Camila," Mr. Aguirre corrected with emphasis, "is here present, and yes, she agrees." Another silence. "I need 48 hours to think about it." "You have 24. After that, the charges go straight to the prosecutor." "That's blackmail." "No, ma'am. It's justice. Your decision." Isabella hung up without saying goodbye. Valerie shook her head. Right to the end without a shred of decency. The next day, at 11 in the morning, Isabella arrived accompanied by a young, nervous lawyer. She didn't enter the house. Mr. Aguirre went out to the street with the documents. From the window, I saw them arguing for 20 minutes. Isabella gesticulated, shouted. Her lawyer seemed to be trying to calm her down. Finally, with trembling hands, she signed. Mr. Aguirre returned with the signed and notarized papers. "It's done. Legally. It's over." Michael took the documents and looked at them as if he couldn't believe they were real. "It's over," he whispered. "It's really over." But I knew something was missing. Isabella had signed. Yes, but she hadn't really paid for the emotional damage, for the nights I cried, for the dignity she tried to take from me. "Mr. Aguirre," I said, "can I ask you one last favor?" "Of course, Camilla." "I want you to give something to Isabella." I went up to my room. From the closet, I took out a small box. Inside was $10,000 in cash. I also included a note I had written that morning. I went down and gave the box to Mr. Aguirre. "What is this?" he asked, confused. "Give this to Isabella. Tell her it's so she can't say I left her on the street, that it's more than she deserves, but less than what it will cost her to live with her conscience." Mr. Aguirre smiled, a smile of pure admiration. "You are incredible, Camilla." He went out and gave her the box. I saw Isabella's face from the window. She opened the box, read the note. Her face crumpled, not in sadness, in impotent rage, because I had given her money. I had shown her mercy. And that was worse than any revenge. It proved to her that I was a better person than she was, that I had won not by being cruel, but by maintaining my dignity until the end. Isabella took the box and left without looking back. I never saw her again, because the real victory isn't in destroying your enemy. It's in proving that their evil didn't change you, that you remained who you were despite the poison, and that, in the end, light always wins over darkness. The first few days after Isabella left were strange. The house felt different, as if it had been exorcised. Valerie stayed for 2 more weeks before returning to Dallas. "Mom, are you sure you'll be okay alone?" she asked the morning of her departure. "More than okay, honey, for the first time in years. This house feels like mine again." I hugged her at the door, watching her get into the taxi when she left. I closed the door and stood in the entryway. Silence, peace, mine. I walked through every room, reclaiming my space. I took out the painting of the Virgin Mary that Isabella had stored and hung it back up in the living room. I returned my embroidered cushions to the sofa. I put the photos of Henry and the children in every corner. The house was breathing again. Michael didn't show up for a week. I understood he needed time to process, to heal. When he finally called, his voice sounded different, more mature. "Mom, Can I come by tomorrow? Just to visit. I won't stay long. I need to see you. Of course, honey. He arrived the next day with a bouquet of white carnations, my favorites. Not expensive red roses, not flashy arrangements, simple white carnations that reminded me of the ones Henry used to bring me every Friday. I didn't know what to bring, he said shyly at the door. They're perfect. I made coffee and sweetbread. We sat in the kitchen, not the living room, the place where important conversations had always happened. Mom, I moved into a small apartment downtown. It's different, but it's mine. No memories of her. I'm glad, son. I also started therapy, twice a week. The therapist says I have codependency issues and... He laughed bitterly. Low self-esteem. Imagine that. 37 years old and I'm just discovering I don't know who I am without someone telling me what to do. Michael, we all have things to work on. The important thing is that you're doing it. Can I ask you something? Anything? How did you manage to forgive me? Because I still can't forgive myself. I left my cup on the table. I thought carefully. I haven't forgiven you completely yet, I said honestly. And maybe I never will entirely. But I love you. And I chose love over resentment. That doesn't mean the pain disappeared. It means I decided not to let that pain turn me into someone bitter. His eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve that love. No one deserves love. It's given or it's not. And I choose to give it to you. But this time, with clear limits. What limits? That you never again allow anyone to disrespect me. That you include me in your important decisions, not for permission, but out of respect. That if you ever have a partner again, she understands from the beginning that I am your mother and I deserve consideration. I promise you. He took my hand. Mom, I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you that I can be better. I don't need the rest of your life, Michael. I just need you to be honest with me, that's all. The visits became regular. On Sundays, Michael came for dinner. I made stew or his favorites. We talked about his work, his therapy, his life. Little by little, I got to know the man he was becoming, a more aware, stronger one. A month later, he brought someone. Mom, I want you to meet Patricia. She was a woman of about 35, with short brown hair and glasses. She dressed simply, jeans and a white blouse. She brought a container. Mrs. Camila, it's an honor to meet you. Michael has told me so much about you. She extended the container. I made oatmeal cookies. I hope you like them. They weren't expensive flowers. They weren't perfect words. They were homemade cookies, made with her own hands. Thank you. Patricia, come in, please. During the meal, Patricia asked me about my life, about Henry, about how we met, about building the house. She listened genuinely, asked intelligent questions. When I told her about my garden, she got excited. Could you show me? I love plants, but I've never known how to take care of them well. We spent an hour in the garden. I showed her my bougainvillea, my rose bushes, the aromatic herbs. Patricia took notes on her phone, asked questions, got her hands dirty touching the soil. When they left, Michael stayed for a moment at the door. What did you think? She seems genuine, humble, real. She is. She's an elementary school teacher. She earns little, but she loves what she does. She doesn't care about my money or my house or anything material, just me. Do you love her? It's still early to know. But I like how she makes me feel, calm, like I can breathe. Then give it time, no rush, and if it ever gets serious, I'd like to get to know her better. You can count on that, Mom. The months passed. Summer arrived with its hot afternoons. I started replanting the garden with Lucy. I invited the neighbors for coffee. I resumed my knitting classes that I had abandoned when Isabella started controlling my time. One afternoon in July, while I was watering the plants, my phone rang, an unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Camila. It was a young woman's voice, nervous. Yes, who is this? My name is Andrea. I was a friend of Isabella's. My stomach tensed. "What do you want?" I needed to tell you something. Isabella called me a few days ago. She's in Florida with that Roddy guy, but he already left her. She ran out of money and he kicked her out. Now she's working in a restaurant, washing dishes. I didn't feel satisfaction, just a sad emptiness. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you were right. Everything you said that night at your birthday was true. Isabella used me too. She borrowed money from me, never paid me back, and when I confronted her, she blocked me. I just wanted you to know that not all of us were like her. Some of us did realize too late who she really was." "Thank you for calling, Andrea." "Did you forgive him, your son? I mean, Michael?" "I'm in the process. He's so lucky. Isabella will never have that. No one is going to forgive her. Her own mother stopped speaking to her." We hung up. I stood in the garden with the hose in my hand, thinking. Isabella had lost everything, and I had recovered everything that mattered, because true wealth was never in the house, or the money. It was in being able to sleep in peace, in feeling like the owner of your own life, in having a family that loves you, not one that uses you, and that no one could ever take from me again. A full year had passed since that birthday night that changed everything. It was April again, and the air smelled of fresh bougainvillea. I was in the kitchen making stew when the doorbell rang. I looked at the clock. 11 in the morning. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door and found Michael with a nervous smile. "Hi, Mom, do you have time?" "I always have time for you. My son, come in." He entered, but stood in the living room with his hands in his pockets, like when he was a teenager and had something important to say. "What's wrong, Michael? You're making me nervous." "Mom, Patricia and I have been dating for 10 months, officially. And I want to ask her to marry me." My heart skipped a beat. After everything we'd been through, the word marriage gave me chills. "Sit down, son. Let's talk." We sat down. Michael looked different from the man who had been married to Isabella. He had light in his eyes, peace on his face. "I know what you're thinking," he said. "After Isabella, how can I trust my judgment again? But Mom, Patricia is different, completely different." "Tell me." "She's spent a year getting to know you. Not because I forced her, but because she wanted to. She asks about you every week. When you went to the hospital for your checkup, she offered to go with you without me saying anything. When you turned 69, 2 weeks ago. She reminded me 3 times not to forget to call you." It was true. Patricia had been present in small but constant ways. She sent me photos of her students, invited me to her school plays, asked me for advice on recipes. "Do you love her?" I asked directly. "Yes, but not like I loved Isabella. With Isabella, it was obsession, need, fear of being alone. With Patricia, it's tranquility. It's being able to be myself without masks. It's knowing that if I lose my job tomorrow, she'll still be there. Not for my money, but for me." And what does she say? "I haven't proposed yet, because first, I needed your blessing, not your permission. Mom, your blessing." There's a difference. I felt my eyes fill with tears. A year ago, I would have said yes to anything just to make you happy. I would have ignored all the warning signs. But now I ask you honestly, does Patricia make you happy? Does she respect you? Does she respect your family? To all 3 questions, yes. "Then you have my blessing." Michael hugged me tight. "Thank you, Mom. And there's one more thing. When I propose, I want to do it here, in this house, in your garden, where Dad planted the bougainvillea. Would you let me?" "This house is yours too, Michael. It always has been." "No, Mom, it stopped being mine when I allowed Isabella to disrespect you here. But I'd like it to be a place of good memories again, of new beginnings." 2 weeks later, we organized a family dinner, just us. Valerie with Daniel and the grandkids, Lucy with her husband, Michael, Patricia, and me. I had put up lights in the garden. Patricia thought it was just a simple family dinner. She didn't know what was coming. After dessert, Michael stood up. "Patricia, there's something I want to tell you." She looked at him, confused. Michael took her hand and led her into the garden. We all followed. "A year ago, I was at the worst point in my life. I had lost everything, my marriage, my dignity. I almost lost my family. And then you came along." Patricia had her hands over her mouth, her eyes wide. "You didn't come with grand promises or expensive gifts. You came with homemade cookies and sincere questions. You taught me that love isn't possession or control. It's respect. It's peace. It's wanting the best for the other person, even when it doesn't benefit you directly." He knelt, took out a small box. "Patricia, would you do me the honor of marrying me? I don't promise you perfection, but I promise you honesty. I don't promise you wealth, but I promise you hard work. And I promise that my family, especially my mother, will always have the place she deserves in our life." Patricia was crying. I was crying. Valerie was crying. Even my grandkids were emotional. "Yes," Patricia whispered. 1,000 times, yes." They kissed under the bougainvillea that Henry had planted 40 years ago. And in that moment, I felt the circle close, that the house was once again a place of love, not pain, afterwards, when everyone was celebrating inside. Patricia approached me. "Mrs. Camilla, I know you've suffered a lot. Michael told me everything, and I want you to know that I will never, ever disrespect you. You built this family. I'm just asking for permission to be a part of it." I hugged her tight. "You don't need permission, honey. You're already part of it." That night, when everyone had gone, I stayed alone in the garden. I looked at the stars and spoke to Henry as I sometimes did. "We did it, old man. They almost beat us, but in the end, we won. The house is still standing. Michael learned, and this time, he'll choose well." The wind blew softly, moving the bougainvillea, and I swear I felt Henry smile, because second chances do exist, not to erase the past, but to build a better future with the lessons learned. And this time, my family knew exactly what to protect and what to never allow again. 2 years after that night that changed everything, I find myself sitting in my garden watching my grandchildren play among the bougainvillea. Sarah is 11 now. Matt is 9. They run, chasing butterflies. While Patricia teaches them the names of the plants, Michael is inside making lemonade. I can hear his laugh from here, genuine and light, so different from that broken man who cried in my arms 2 years ago. Patricia turned out to be exactly who she seemed, authentic, kind, real. They got married a year ago in a simple ceremony in the garden of this house. Nothing flashy, just close family and true friends. She wore a simple white dress that cost $4,500. She didn't care. "Mrs. Camilla," she told me that morning while I helped her with her hair, "thank you for giving Michael another chance, and thank you for giving me one too. You never needed a chance, honey. You came being who you were. That's all I ever asked for." Now they live in their own apartment, but they come every Sunday. Patricia helps me in the garden. Michael fixes whatever breaks. But it's no longer obligation or manipulation. It's simple, true love. Valerie is still in Dallas, but we talk every day. Last month, she visited with news. She's pregnant again. It will be a girl. She wants to name her Camilla. So she never forgets her grandmother's strength, she told me with tears in her eyes. My sister Lucy comes every Thursday. We drink coffee. We knit. We gossip about the neighbors. Simple things that remind me that happiness doesn't need to be complicated. I heard little more about Isabella after that call from Andrea. I heard through the grapevine that she's still in Florida, that she changed jobs several times, that her family didn't forgive her. A small part of me felt pity. A very small part, because she chose her path. She chose lies over truth, greed over love, manipulation over honesty, and those choices have consequences that no money can erase. Michael never mentioned her name again. Neither did I. Some people don't deserve space in your memory. 3 months ago, I received a letter from the bank, checking my bank statements. I found that someone had deposited $45,000 into my account. The sender was anonymous, but I knew. I called Michael. "Honey, did you deposit money into my account?" There was a silence. "It was Isabella's debt to you. Mom, the money she borrowed and never paid back. It took me 2 years, but I saved it up, with interest." "Michael, you didn't have to—" "Yes, I did. Because even though she asked for it, I allowed her to use you. That debt was mine too. I used that money to remodel the kitchen, not because I needed to, but because I wanted every corner of this house to have only good, new memories this afternoon. As I watch my family gathered, I think about everything that happened, the pain, the betrayal, the humiliation, but also the strength I found, the lessons I learned, the dignity I recovered." Patricia approaches with a cup of tea. "What are you thinking about?" "Mom." I smile at her. She started calling me that 6 months ago, with genuine affection. "I'm thinking that it was worth it. All the pain was worth it to get here." "You wouldn't change anything." I think about it honestly. I would change trusting so much at the beginning. I would have set limits from day one, but the rest, no. Because the rest taught me who I really am, and it taught Michael who he wants to be. Michael comes out with the lemonade, kisses Patricia on the forehead, smiles at me. A whole man, not the puppet he was. "Do you know what day it is today?" I ask suddenly. "What day, Grandma?" Sarah asks. "Exactly 2 years ago. I kicked everyone out of my house on my birthday, the worst and best day of my life." "Why the best?" Matt asks. "Because that day, I stopped being a victim and became the owner of my own life again." Michael raises his glass. "To Mom, to the strongest woman I know." Everyone toasts. Patricia, Valerie, who is on video call, the grandkids, Lucy, and I. Camilla, 71 years old, owner of this house and my destiny. I toast too. To dignity, which no one can take from you unless you let them. To the second chances we build with our own hands. To knowing when to forgive and when to let go. And to finally understanding that the real victory isn't destroying those who hurt you, it's remaining who you are, in spite of them. I look at the imaginary camera, as if I can see every person listening to this story. If you are living through something similar, I want you to know this. Your dignity is non-negotiable. It doesn't matter how much you love them or how much they love you. It doesn't matter if it's your son, your daughter-in-law, your husband. No one has the right to make you feel invisible in your own life. There will be those who tell you you're selfish for defending yourself, that you're difficult for setting limits, that you're cruel for saying no. Let them talk, because at the end of the day, you are the one who has to live with your decisions, and it's better to live with the peace of having defended your worth than with the regret of having let yourself be erased. This was my story, a story of betrayal, yes, but also of resurrection, of discovering that even at 68 years old, you can roar like a lioness, and if I could do it, you can too. It's never too late to reclaim your voice. It's never too late to say, enough. It's never too late to choose yourself. Because true wealth isn't in what you own. It's in what you refuse to let them take from you. If this story touched your heart, leave me a comment telling me where you're watching from. Give it a like if you've ever had to defend yourself against someone you loved. And subscribe to Elderly Stories for more real stories of women who refuse to be invisible. Remember, your dignity is worth more than any relationship. Until the next story. And never, ever let anyone dim your light. End.